There's something in the vent. This isn't a ghost story. It's a pressure valve. I moved to Georgia, lost touch with everyone, and don't have anyone close enough to say the weird parts out loud. Writing is easier to ignore than a face, so I'm writing. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas. Fields, woods, a quick mart leaning on a gravel shoulder. Our two-story farmhouse sat on my dad's land. He fought a bottle and mostly lost. My Aunt Lena lived with us. Technically my dad's younger sister, but only a couple years older than me. More like a sister I didn't get to choose. My grandfather, Roy, was there too, slipping into Alzheimer's. Some days I was darling, which was everyone and no one. Lena and I clung to each other because the house didn't hold you unless you held back. We stayed up late watching horror story times and playing scary games, flipping on extra lamps and swearing we weren't spooked. The house had its own voice. Planks popping, vents humming, nails ticking like a nervous habit. The night it started, we were doing adult coloring sheets at the kitchen table and half listening to a YouTube narrator. Around 2 a.m., something in the room tightened. Not silence. Listening. My arms prickled. I glanced at the square metal vent behind me and said, "I feel like something's watching from there." "Why would you say that?" Lena hissed, "because saying it makes it real." We did the stupidest, most effective thing, ripped out our coloring pages and taped them over the upstairs vents. As soon as the last strip of tape went on, the pressure let go. We laughed, brittle, but real. The pages stayed for 3 days until Dad peeled them off, grumbling about airflow. Nothing happened after that. Or so we told ourselves. Weeks later, we played hide and seek with the lights off because darkness feels like a game if you name it one. Lena counted upstairs. I slipped into the pantry closet. It smelled like flour and onions. My usual spot was up on a shelf behind a wall of cans, but I wanted to be clever. I moved a crate and found a small service vent low to the floor, half hidden. The grate had a little latch. The rectangle beyond was just big enough if you made yourself into the idea of a person. I popped the latch, slid inside, and pulled the grate back with 2 fingers. The air tasted like attic and pennies. Lena's steps approached. The pantry door opened. A dim glow from her phone cut blades of light across the shelves and my face. She stood with her head cocked, then crouched, reached out, and, without looking in, snapped the latch shut. Click. Then she left. At first I held still, smug. 5 minutes later, not smug. 10 minutes my stomach went cold. She hadn't known I was there. She just closed what was open. I pressed my palms to the grate and pushed. It bit my skin and didn't move. I tried to turn to kick, but there wasn't room to cock my leg. Metal squealed sharp in my ear. That's when the air behind me warmed. Not a draft. Breath. The smell came sweet over mold, like fruit in the wrong drawer. I looked over my shoulder into dark that took its time becoming anything. Then I saw it. 2 low, wet points catching the tiniest bit of light. Not blinking, moving. Left, right, left. Considering me. I made some noise I don't want to name and threw my shoulder into the grate. Dust fell into my mouth. Behind me, a soft repositioning. The delicate shuffle of weight on thin metal. Closer. I said, "Help," threading the word through the crosshatch. Pantry, vent, I'm stuck. The pantry door banged. Lena dropped to her knees, fingers at the latch. The presence retreated down the duct, the way water runs off a tilted pan. Fast, soundless, practiced. The smell lagged a second, like a hand leaving a warm spot. I tumbled out and laughed a cracked little laugh because my body couldn't pick panic or relief. Lena looked like the color had fallen out of her face. "Tell me you're lying," she tried. I wasn't. We taped that vent shut with 2 coloring sheets and a whole roll of cheap tape. We retired hide and seek. We promised not to feed the house any more rituals. Things went normal for a while. School, chores, granddad tapping porch rhythms to songs he couldn't name. At night, the house stood's old stretches, and we didn't translate them. But small wrongnesses accumulated. Sometimes I'd wake with the feeling a photo had been taken of me. No camera. Sometimes a soft, patient tap came from a register. The kind of sound nails make when they test metal. Once or twice, I thought I saw low eyes in the corner of a dark room, twin reflections where there weren't lights to reflect. Then, a night I'll remember until memory runs out. I woke to pee. Lena slept on the bed beside mine, an arm over her face like a theatrical faint. The hallway beyond our door was the specific dark of rural houses. I stood on the threshold and told myself to move. I stepped forward, onto our little crocheted rug. A sharp crinkle under my heel. Paper. I lifted my foot. Blue phone light showed a coloring sheet on the floor, the same kind we'd taped over the pantry vent. The page was creased where tape had been. I did not look up at the baseboard vent because I already knew what would be waiting for my eyes to rise into it. The hair at my neck lifted anyway. The air thickened until breathing felt like sucking water through a straw. Fight or flight picked flight, and my body agreed, clumsy. I pivoted, the rug skated. My hip found the door jamb. The lights behind my eyes popped. When the world came back, its angles belonged to the house's lungs. Metal pressed my arm, my shoulder wedged against a seam humming faintly with the memory of air. The smell was there, old dust and that wrong sweetness. I didn't wonder where I was. The duct knew me. I don't remember how I got out. Brains stack certain boxes and never label them. Lena swears I cried out and then sat up in bed. She swears she found me in the hall. She swears the pantry door was open in the morning. The 3 facts don't fit together unless you shave corners off them, and truth loses shape when you force it. After that, I started writing. My therapist, warm sweaters, quiet bracelets, suggested journaling. You can put the hard parts on paper and put the paper down. I kept it vague. I wrote noise in the walls instead of breath. I wrote reflections instead of eyes. I wrote draft instead of something with patience. It helped until it didn't. Writing about that summer felt like naming a stray. It started showing up again. In the quiet between the AC shutting off and the refrigerator humming, I'd hear the tiny tap. I'd feel the pause of a listener who knows your breathing pattern and tries it on. It doesn't scratch like an animal. It attends. Dad would shrug and say ducts carry sound. He'd promised to check this weekend, the elastic day. Granddad once stood by a floor register, said no thank you to nothing, and gave me a look like he passed a door-to-door salesman on to me. I kissed his flannel cheek and told him I'd handle it. You learn how to talk yourself down. Brain loves patterns. Vents are rumors. You're tired. The arguments work until the house goes honest at 3 a.m., and you can tell the difference between a system and a presence. So I made a plan. Leave. Burn the pages. Stop naming it. Names are doors. We've opened enough. By the time this reaches eyes that aren't mine, I'll be gone. The notebooks will be ash in the burn barrel by the back fence, the one we fed brush into when Dad remembered to do things that end. I'll feed the pages in a handful at a time so the fire doesn't choke. I'll smoke the house out too. Magazines with my scrawl on them, Post-its with lies like, "We'll figure it out." Any scrap that taught the ducks the shape of my sentences. If Dad asks about the smell, I'll say, "Just burning junk." He'll nod,
grateful for any answer that doesn't require a ladder. If you come by and I don't answer, it won't mean no one's home. It will mean I'm practicing a different kind of quiet. It will mean I learned something from the thing that learned me. Don't go to the pantry. Don't pull a grate because you're brave or bored. Don't press your ear to a register like it's a seashell and you're curious what ocean lives there. Tape the vents if you must. Use your favorite pages. If you hear a small, patient tap, understand it for what it is, not a greeting, a measurement. There's something in the vent. It has time. It knows the house's geometry better than you do, the little paths between breath and breath. It doesn't need you to believe in it. It needs you to keep naming it so it knows where to find your voice. I'm going to make it wait for silence. Silence doesn't mean I'm gone. Silence means I might still get out.